I'm John Skinner, and this supports my book, A Season on the Edge. From top to bottom, there's a 7-inch Tsunami weighted sand eel. Below that is a 6-inch unweighted Tsunami sand eel. Then there's 4 real sand eels and a couple of tins that are commonly used when sand eels are the predominant bait. And these are the lures that I'll be using in this video. These are the Tsunami weighted sand eel, 7-inch and 8-inch. Here's a quick look at the retrieve speed I'm using throughout most of this video. This is a Long Island South Shore beach, an ocean beach. Actually a fairly popular beach with quite a few trucks that are cruising up and down looking for fish. And calm, overcast conditions. It's the middle of the day. This video is shot roughly 11:30 to 1:30. Right around lunchtime. And if you take a look, I've got a couple trucks cruising around to my left there, but there's nobody fishing on either side of me. So what drew me to this particular spot was that there's kind of a little bit deeper water next to the beach. Like a lot of this beach has a bar that runs along it, and it's some effort to cast out and reach that bar, but there's some water that's a little bit deeper and closer to the beach. And what really drew me in was I drove by and noted about a half a dozen cormorants that were working in pretty close to shore and picking up sand eels, which is the predominant bait fish that the bass were feeding on in this video. And cormorants are those little black duck-like birds that you see diving and then coming up and looking for bait fish. And a lot of people overlook those birds, but they're actually pretty important, and they're great indicators of bait. And if the bait's there's a good chance the fish are there. So I stopped and started casting, and I had quite a trip doing this. So we're going to go through, and I'll try to get through the techniques and everything, and discuss how this day went. So I think probably one of the biggest advances in fishing lures in the last 20 years or so are internally weighted soft plastics. And there's lots of different kinds of these. You can think of like Storm Wild Eyes, and Tsunami certainly makes some nice shad-like internally weighted soft plastics. And these are another variety of that. These are internally weighted sand eels, and they come in 3 sizes, 7, 8, and 9 inches. I'm actually not quite sure on the weight. I didn't see the weight on the package. I'm using the 7-inch in the beginning of this video, and you can see now to my left, you know, I landed a fish, and actually another fish that I didn't have on video, and so a few guys have stopped there and are fishing. But these Tsunami sand eels, they just look spectacular in the water. The one drawback would be that they don't cast like a tin would, obviously. They cast about as well as a bucktail would, a 1-ounce bucktail. I get about the same distance. And of course, the one other disadvantage would be if there were bluefish around. But I've got to say, during this day, I had about a half a dozen bluefish hits, and they just left teeth marks. None of them bit through it, so these are actually quite durable. But boy, this is a dynamite lure. You know, calm conditions like this, clear water, the fish are getting a really good look at it, and they're having no problem going after it. It's very, very impressive. And I've used this lure in other settings many times, and it's just a real great tool in the surf bag. This is the same 9-foot rod I use in a lot of my surf videos. It's built on a Lamiglas GSB 120 1L blank. That's a 10-footer, 1 foot cut from the butt, a Van Staal 200 spooled with 30-pound test spider wire stealth. At the end of the braid, I have about a 3-foot leader of 50-pound test fluorocarbon. It's joined to the braid with a barrel swivel, and I don't tie direct, but I use a tactical angler's clip to the lure. And a nearby angler took a still photo here. We get a little better idea of the size of the fish without the distortion of the wide-angle lens on the camera. So while I was watching this video, I noticed I'm looking to my left and my right a lot, and I realize what I'm doing there is I'm looking for those cormorants, and you'll never see them on the video because they're kind of skittish. So if you see them working close to shore and you walk down by the water's edge, they immediately move away. So it's not like you ever have those things in front of you, but I like to see that I've got them on both sides of me, and then I know I'm in the right general area where they're feeding and where there's probably some bait. This video is actually broken into two parts because there's about 23 minutes total. The first part being about close to 14 minutes. And if you watch it all the way through, something you might pick up on is I've got a falling tide here, and in the beginning a lot of the hits are pretty close, and as that water level starts to drop, the hits start going out further and further, and then you'll see actually, if you were to watch part 2, it gets to the point that the hits come at the end of the cast and the water gets shallower, and then I eventually go find another spot with deep water close to shore and pick right back up on hitting fish again. When I was leaving the beach this day, another angler asked me if I was able to reach the fish at all, and he was kind of wet and mentioned that he had waded out on a sandbar, and no matter what he did, he just couldn't reach them. And this was all a matter of choice of where he decided to cast, because as you could see, I don't have to step into the water at all, and these hits are nice and close. And this was just a matter of picking a spot where either you have a break in the sandbar or there's no sandbar. And this is not to discourage people from fishing near bars, because when you get bars you have white water, and that's great structure, and a lot of times that's where the fish are. But in this case, this was a calm day. The white water on the bars wasn't all that impressive. It just worked out to be, at least for me, it was a better idea just to look for some deeper water and concentrate on that. So this is nice. I mean, look how this guy is paying attention. Sees I've got a fish kind of close, and he holds his cast. He steps back, and real courteous. And I was able to turn the fish before it got to him. But there's a real great example of just paying attention to your surroundings and keeping an eye on the anglers around you. So that was real appreciated. Real nice example. So this fish isn't really hooked deep. He's got that hook on the side of the mouth, so I'm just trying to get my finger on the bend of the hook and just push it back, and it came right out. So those guys to my left, they all kind of came together in a couple trucks, and they all left together, and they really didn't do much. They were throwing tins, and the fish were just kind of picky, and I really think that had to do with it being midday, clear water, calm water, and they were glad to hit these Sandeel lures. But I had actually thrown the tin a little bit before switching over to these things, and it's just an example of these lures are just outproducing the tin. I really like the hooks in these lures. They're those chemically sharpened types, very, very sharp, but they're strong as well. So it's like a flick of the wrist and you can bury that hook, and the hooks hold up real well. You can see the guys to my right bailed out of there too. I was keeping my eye on what they were doing, and I saw just one small fish come up, either a shad or a bluefish. Okay, I hope you found this useful, and if you'd like to watch some more, you can watch part 2.